This is the Porsche Macan Turbo, and I'm going to make a prediction, which is that I think you've probably watched all of the regular reviews. You've got to this point and you're thinking, is this for me? Or you're just interested. Maybe it's not a car that you'll own, and let's be honest, it's not a car I would ever own because of reasons I'll come on to later, but you might just be interested in Porsches. And by the way, I do say Porsche, I need to get that out of the way. I know it's Porsche, but I say Porsche because I'm British and a bit stupid. So I think you've watched all of the regular reviews, and I should note at this stage that my reviews aren't atypical. I'm not going to sit here and talk about specs. I'm not going to go into all the details about the driving dynamics and all of the charging stuff and all of the range, all that business, because those reviews are out there, let's be honest. What I'm going to do in this video is just talk about what it's like to drive. I've had it for about 4 days now, and it's been my main car for that period. I'm a dad, although the car seat isn't in the back. We do have a 3-year-old son, so he's been in it. My girlfriend's been in it. We've taken it shopping. We've done all the normal stuff basically, and I want to give you an idea of what it's like, just the normal stuff really, and just my normal guy reaction to what is an expensive and a really interesting car when it comes to the positioning of it and who would actually buy it. I'll do a charging test as well, because I'm driving this back to Reading, which is where Porsche GB is, and they own this car, so they need it back basically. So once I've got about 2/3 of the way, I do need to stop for a charge. I've put all of that into the sat nav in here, which is fantastic by the way. We'll see how quickly it charges, because this does have a very fast charging part to it. And then at that point I will reveal how much this particular car costs and just some of the specs. Right, now we're slowly moving out of Leamington Spa. Let's talk about the design. This is one of the most understated Porsches you can buy. It's a sports SUV. I think that's what they're called, these kind of cars. There's so many different types of SUV. The SUV thing has taken over the world, hasn't it? So this has to have SUV in the title to give it a bit of an audience demographic to aim at. It is one of the least flashy Porsches you can buy. It's not a GT3 RS, obviously it hasn't got a great big, it's got a wing, but it hasn't got a great big wing sticking out the back of it. I think from the rear, for instance, it looks unmistakably Porsche. It's got that long light strip, and it says Porsche on the back of it as well. It also says turbo, which is interesting because this is an EV. It's fully electric. It doesn't actually have a turbo. So from the rear, definitely a Porsche. From the front, again, definitely a Porsche. It's got kind of Taycan vibes, very similar headlights. From the side, this isn't a particularly exciting looking car. It looks relatively normal, I think, and it looks relatively sleeperish, and that is very important for reasons I'll come on to in a bit. The colour is copper ruby metallic, which is a colour that the press people at Porsche picked. They spec these cars to make them look interesting, and it may not be a colour that you would pick yourself. I personally wouldn't go for this one, but that's just my taste really. The interior is lovely. It's one of my favourite interiors that I've covered so far on the Next Drive. What I love about Porsche is that they fully accept, and as I have begrudgingly accepted, that we are entering this era of reduced buttons and knobs and twiddly twirly bits in cars, because let's be completely honest about this, Tesla has driven this non-button thing right from the start, and most car brands are following suit. I'm not keen on it. I hate it when for instance, we get the heater controls just on the screen. You know, you have to go into a menu and find them and flick stuff with your fingers and stuff. It's just really annoying. Porsche has met us in the middle with this. So they've gone for a kind of hybrid approach where we have a certain amount of stuff in the infotainment system, but also proper switches, and they are typically beautiful in terms of design and look and feel. So we have a row of switches here which you use for the heating controls, for the heated seat, for the seat ventilation. There's a great big volume knob there. We have the usual array of buttons on the steering wheel, plus a drive mode select, which I'll explain in a moment. But there's just enough controls in here to make an old timer like me feel at home. Even the heater controls above here, so we've got like the proper vents, these lovely and fairly old-fashioned in a kind of modern sort of way, if that makes sense, open and closed vents thing here. Porsche, please keep doing this. You know, the drive selector is just there, it's in the perfect place. Again, it's lovely in terms of design. The park button, would not normally get excited about this, is a beautiful thing to press. It's got a lovely click. It's just, please carry on doing this, Porsche. Road noise, no problems there whatsoever. These are big wheels on this car, but they are not too noisy either. Lots of fancy lighting everywhere. The strip lighting on here acts as a, well, it's an ambient thing, but it also acts as an indication that a car is overtaking you. So if you've ever driven a car that has the lights on the wing mirrors, this has that as well actually, but the little yellow light that flashes when a car comes past, or to let you know that you shouldn't pull in just yet because you're too close to the car behind. These lights do the same thing. Do we need that? Not really. I mean, we've lived without it for decades, haven't we? But it's a nice implementation of these lights, and it doesn't feel too nannying or just, you know, overbearing, which if you've seen my reviews before, you'll know that's a very important point. We do have the Porsche clock as well. I love it. That is one of the main things I'm going to miss when I give this car back. The stereo system in this particular car is the Burmeister, but however you pronounce it, the fancy one basically, and it is the best car stereo I've ever heard in my entire life. And here comes the rain. The weather's been horrendous in the UK recently, which has been a good test for this car, to be fair, but if you can hear that on this mic, apologies. The infotainment system, as mentioned earlier, is fantastic. I've only been using the built-in sat-nav just to give it a real test, and to be honest, if this was my car, I'd continue doing that. I wouldn't use CarPlay or Android Auto, both of which are obviously compatible with this via no wire. It's fully wireless, but no interest in that because the built-in sat-nav is so good. We get it on that screen, obviously, we get it on the screen behind the steering wheel, and we get what I think is one of the best one of the best heads-up displays ever. It has a G-ometer, so I can see how many G's I'm pulling in corners and while accelerating and decelerating, but it also has this kind of augmented reality thing where the directions latch onto the road. So for instance, if I'm turning left in a minute, I get these little arrows pointing to that turning, and the arrows move forward with the turning as you approach the turning, and in you go. Similarly, if you turn on the adaptive cruise control, which is very good by the way, it will put little lines beneath the cars that you're kind of pulling in behind. Very hard to explain heads-up displays until you see them, but if a heads-up display is important to you, and if it could be one of the selling points of a car, you are not going to be disappointed by that. The other thing we have is a passenger screen over here, which I've not used because I've not been the passenger in this car, but my girlfriend has been, and she loved the fact that she could change the air conditioning and stuff. You can do that very easily here. I think she just liked the fact you could do it from there. Is that a novelty? I don't know. But she did like the fact she could change the entertainment and all that sort of thing. And you can see the route. Again, a bit of a luxury, but this is an expensive car. This weather in the UK is insane. I really hope you can hear me over this rain. Great test for this car though, to be fair. And it does feel incredibly stable in these kind of conditions. When you bear in mind how much power is under the hood in this thing, it's amazing that you can keep it on the road very easily. And that brings me on to performance. I wanted to leave this until the end of this video in that effort to keep you watching for as long as possible, but I've just got to talk about it now. This is, without a doubt, the fastest thing I've ever driven in my entire life. EVs, I think partly because they're so computer game-like in the way they deliver that power, they just bother me a bit because I think they get put in the hands of people who definitely don't need that power and possibly don't know what to do with it when it arrives, which is immediately. Now, the Porsche Macan Turbo will be bought by people who are, I think, of my kind of ilk, you know, people who want to have the fastest version of something. However, even if those people have owned fast cars before, I don't think they'll be prepared for what this thing can do. I will, like I say, reveal the specs at the end of this video, but forgetting the numbers, forgetting all that stuff, when you put this thing, I won't do it now in this weather obviously, but when you put it into Sports Plus, now we have the drive mode button down here, 4 settings, off-road, which might be handy now, normal, which I spent most of the time in, Sport, and then Sport Plus. Now if you put it in Sport Plus, come to a standstill and bury your foot on the accelerator, as I did a couple of days ago, the result is absolutely mind-bending. You get this initial wave of acceleration and torque and power, and normally in EVs that happens and then it kind of evens off a bit and it's still a bit whoa, but it's not, you know, it kind of loses steam after a while. Some of the BYDs I've driven recently are a good example of that, as is the Tesla Model Y, but this thing, it just keeps going. My co-presenter on here, Alistair, he summed it up because he's driven this as well. He summed it up brilliantly where he said the initial acceleration is manageable. It's shocking, but it's like whoa and quite exciting. A few seconds after that, it just gets really weird. It almost feels as though your brain is being left behind. Not just your stomach, it's way back there, but I had this weird thing where it felt like my brain was kind of moving backwards through the headrest and into the back of the car. Unnatural, uncomfortable, scary, might make you feel sick, just unbelievable speed. And I'm gonna have to wait for this rain to go away to finish this video. Well, this rain isn't stopping and I'm just gonna have to carry on. Hopefully you can hear me. These are real reviews, guys. We don't get these cars for that long. I've got between now and dropping this off to Reading, which is about an hour and a half to get this done. So bear with me and bear with the British weather, but the speed, it's insane. You will beat anything, I think, off the line. And in most scenarios, driving around, you're gonna have the fastest car on the road. You've got that knowledge that unless something incredible comes past you, you've got the fastest thing on the road. And what's very impressive about the Macan Turbo is that it has that power available at all times. So for instance, if I just slow down slightly, so I'm on a motorway at the moment, and if I go down to, let's say 60 miles an hour, go to Sport Plus, if I put my foot down very briefly, that power's there straight away. You don't get that with every EV. Now, I can't test that because I live in the UK, we have very strict speed limits, and the speed limit, the maximum speed you can do in the UK, depending on the road obviously, is 70. I can't go above 70, so I can't explore the nether regions of this car. I just get the impression it would keep going and keep pulling and pulling and pulling. You know, occasionally you'll pull up to the lights and a kid in an M3 will pull up beside you. You just think, mate, it's not even worth thinking about. All I've got to do is squeeze the throttle just a little bit and you're in the rearview mirror. Within seconds I'm doing 1,000,000 miles an hour. You've just got no chance whatsoever. You know, I'm not boasting here at all, mate. Your car is significantly slower than this, and that applies to pretty much all of these cars now. They're either coming this way or going that way. It's a really weird feeling. I guess if you've bought the car, which I haven't, it would be quite satisfying and it might make the price even more justifiable. The other thing to mention about the speed is the fact that it does have a little wing that pops up, so I haven't worked out when it does it. I know it does it if I put it into Sport Plus. Now if I do that, the wing pops up and we get a much louder sound, a much louder E sound, which is a very nice thing about this car. Porsche, by the way, have completely nailed the sound of an EV. Dynamics, let's talk about dynamics. It's a Porsche, which means it's a lovely car to drive. The steering is very, very sharp. Might be a little bit too sharp at times, but it's definitely ready to go whenever you want to go left or right. It deals with potholes and rough surfaces beautifully. Although this is a sports SUV, it doesn't feel like one to the point of being detrimental to the ride, which that has to be the case. This is the sort of car that you're going to buy, I would guess, do quite a lot of mileage in. You need it to be comfortable along with being an engaging, exciting drive, and Porsche, along with BMW, are one of the best at doing that. Going back to performance, I want to make it clear that this is still a very, very easy car to drive, like any EV. So if you've ever driven an EV before at low speeds, you know, just nipping to the shops and back, you'll know that they are just beautifully smooth, no gear changes obviously, they're just lovely things just to drive around in, which isn't the case with other very fast petrol-based cars. Supercars, hypercars, they're not really designed for nipping around town in. This is, but it's equally designed to be faster than anything else on the road most of the time. So you've got that, it's got that weird kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing where if I didn't know that all that power is beneath me, then I wouldn't know. I wouldn't even think it was there. You only get the hint that it exists when you just give the accelerator just a little bit of a squeeze. You realise that there's an absolute monster beneath your right foot. Okay, nearly at my destination, but I've asked the car to make sure that we have 80% minimum charge by the time I get to the destination, and I put that into the sat nav and it's found a charger very close to the destination. So at the moment we're at 20%. Let's see how good the charging station availability is. Porsche people won't like me again saying this, but the gold standard for ease of EV driving when you need to stop at places and get charge is Tesla. Okay, I've spotted the chargers. I want the super fast ones. What have we got here? High power, that's what we want. There's not many EV people around. If you've ever charged an EV, particularly a Tesla, while out on the road, you often accidentally get into conversation with EV people who love telling you about their charging experiences and their range and all that stuff. By the way, overhead camera, obviously you get that in this car, but once you've had one, you cannot do without one. Stop beeping, that beep is fine because I'm just parking, but stop it, let's do this. There's not too many, in fact there's no EV people around. Very good timing. So the first thing to mention is that we have charging ports on both sides. One here, and then if we come around here, this is the one that we want now because it has the DC super fast charge. So I have a Porsche charge card here, and I think what we do is, do you just straight away do that? No, of course we don't. It's never that simple, is it? Let's plug it in. That's the other thing, I don't want to look like a noob. Why can't I? Oh, okay, do I have to press something? I don't want to ask anyone. I don't want to have to do that. Right, plug in. Okay, I want to plug in. Why won't it come out? Just come out. I don't understand why. Start, present card. Come on, why isn't it working? See, this is the challenge with EVs sometimes. It's not always that easy getting charge. Let's move bays. Oh, I can't use those ones. Oh, I can. No, I can't. They're not available. Ah, there's one here. Okay, yeah, that's got the DC power. This is the EV charging experience, guys. Just realised I've left the charging port open. Brilliant. Will this one come out? No, why doesn't it come out? Ah, there we go. Maybe I just wasn't pulling it hard enough. Right, let's plug that in. Very hard doing this one-handed. That's the wrong cable. Let's pretend that didn't happen. We're in. Present card here. Processing, starting. Charger authorization successful. Preparing to charge. So here we go. We're charging at nothing at the moment. Here we go. It says it's a 460 kilowatt hour charger. It's running at 139. I did this at the weekend at a 300 kilowatt charger in the pouring rain, obviously. I started at 52%, so the car had 52% charge in it, and it maintained about 130 kilowatts, so about, in fact, slower than this one here. And that took 14 minutes to get to 80%. And it gave me about 77 miles. So basically I had to stop for a quarter of an hour to get 77 miles into the battery. This isn't fast, and this isn't Porsche's fault. This car can charge quickly. We are governed completely by the charging network, and even though I've pulled into the super fast charging bay, I've got the DC cable plugged in, I'm getting 140. I mean, it's ticking up. We're at 23% now. I'm not going to wait until 9 o'clock because I need to get this car back to Porsche. This is the UK charging network. I'd love you to get involved in the comments about this, guys, because I know it does annoy some people when I talk about the UK charging network, and everyone's like, well, yeah, but you'd have to plan your route. And this is a perfect example of a trip I have to make and a trip where I couldn't plan beforehand. I've got a charger at home, but it was charging a different car at that point. I thought, okay, well, let's just use the sat nav, and because I'm making this video, let's do a charge test on the way there. Okay, it's gone up a bit now. It's 146 kilowatts. Let's look at the spec of this car while this is charging and reveal the price. Right, so we get these great big sheets with these press cars, which are basically the full specs of the car in question, along with the price. Some of this stuff is the first time I've read it, actually. The power, 584 horsepowers. That's a lot of horsepowers. The torque, 1100 newton meters of torque. That's a lot of newton meters. And that is why you get that kind of throw you in the back of the seat feeling. That is so much torque. The drivetrain, it's got electric motors at the front and the rear, so it is four-wheel drive. The battery capacity is 100 kilowatts. The minimum charge time from 10 to 80% is 21 minutes. The maximum charging power is 270 kilowatts. We're still doing 148 in this particular instance. The range is 367 miles, which is pretty good. 0 to 62 miles an hour, 3.3 seconds. It feels quicker than that, but obviously that must be the case. Top speed, 162 miles an hour. Let's just talk about the price. So the base price of the Macan Turbo Electric, to give it its full name, is £96,900. Now the options on this particular car, the copper ruby metallic paint is 2,250 quid. The 22-inch wheels, which are huge, I probably wouldn't go for those personally, are £2,463. The seat heating, front and rear, £324. interesting. There's a massage function. I didn't even know that. I've missed out on that. But it's 1,100 quid. Isofix, if you want if you want to put your kid in the back, 140 quid for that. The panoramic sunroof is £1,283. It's got a tow bar system which comes out automatically if you press a button. That's 945 quid. This does have the rear axle steering. I was wondering that. You can definitely tell that when you're going around tight corners, you're getting a bit of assistance, and that confirms it basically. The sports chrono package with the Porsche design clock. Is the clock not standard then? Maybe it's not. 783 quid. Thermally and noise insulated glass. That explains why it's so lovely and quiet in here. That's 788 quid. The heads up display is not standard. That's £1,694. The Burmester high-end surround sound system. £2,778. There are some other bits on here, but the total cost for this particular car was £118,761. Which brings me to my conclusion about the Porsche Macan Turbo. It's not a car for me. If I'm going to own a Porsche, which I will do one day, it will be a 911. It really does make me question who would buy a Macan. It's a sports SUV, so it's made for people who need a bit of utility, you know, chucking a dog in the boot, chucking a kid in the back, safely in their car seat, obviously, and doing runs to the shops and doing family type stuff. But it's for someone who also wants to have a prestige car, and for someone, in the Turbo's case, who wants to have an immense amount of speed. However, no one on this planet can benefit from or fully experience what this car can do speed-wise. It's impossible. You will break the law within half a second when you put your foot down. So that's not really what it's about. Like any fast car, you don't buy this car to do 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. You buy it because you know that power exists. You know you've got the fastest car. This car right now is almost definitely, looking at them, faster than any other car in this car park. It just is, and for some people that matters, which is fine. I'm not judging you if that's you at all. That's just the way it is. But you've got to love that car. It's not enough just to know that you've got the power. There's got to be something about the car that you love and that you want to get in every day. And that classic thing, when you get out of it, you park it, you turn around and you look at it. If you do that, and I've done that with most of the cars that I've bought, because I'm such a car person, I want to have cars that I'm proud of owning and I look back at whenever I leave them parked somewhere. And the key test with this is how many times you look back. If you look back once, fine, you love your car. If you look back a second time or even a third time, it's a very special car. The question I have, which I can't answer at the moment, is whether or not the Macan Turbo is capable of being that car for someone. Let me know in the comments if this is the sort of car you want. And I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you probably are researching it potentially to buy it. Get involved in the comments, guys. Let me know whether you would buy this and what you would do with it and why you want it and how many times you think you look back at it when you walk away from it when you've parked up. In terms of this charge, 173 kilowatts, so it has sped up a bit, and it is telling me now, actually, to be fair, that it's going to reach the target charge at 8 p.m. So it has sped up, and I can go and grab a coffee. I've got 15 minutes. That's one of the best things about owning an EV and charging it. It's an excuse to get a coffee and some naughty snacks. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you fancy subscribing, you know what button to click down there. I'll see you in the next one.